think that your topics are probably some of the most popular right now, but I feel like we don't go deep enough into it. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's really important for us to better ourselves as individuals before we can make that ripple effect to others and to eventually help to heal the world. I feel like we have to heal ourselves first. That is what I offer. I offer self-care practices, rituals, techniques that help people connect with themselves on a deeper level and help them love themselves more. And at the same time, start to transform their insides as well as their external appearance too. And I feel like that's where it all starts, is with the individual. And that's how we make a difference in the world.
The inner and outer glow. It's interesting because I'll ask you a bit more about this. I really appreciate your approach to self care practices and to skincare and to these rituals, because it is what you said, that you are helping people reconnect with themselves in a world where we're so disconnected from everyone, but especially to who we are and really our bodies. I mean, we're so separate from them.
We really are. And a lot of these skincare practices involve self-touch. And when you do massage, when you're practicing facial exercises, you're in a very mindful state. And that right there takes you out of a state of anxiety. It immediately takes you out of that negative self-talk or self-scrutiny, really takes you back to a calm center where you can actually explore a lot more about yourself. And that leads to a lot more self-awareness. And self-awareness is really what is required for self-acceptance, which is where all healing happens. And so these self-care practices are a way of reconnecting, grounding with yourself, becoming present and intentional with yourself, and disconnecting from everything else outside of you, which is so easy to do. It's so easy for our mind to wander when we're doing our skincare practices, but really, massaging, using our gua sha tools, these are tools to help you reconnect. And I think that that is where the transformation really happens.
This is such a beautiful point, because I always say, like, there's so much parallels between the self-care and movement, for example, where we'll say that if you're going and you're exercising or you're dancing, the point is not to zone out. It's not to focus on something else. It's not to look in the mirror the whole time. It's to really be with you. And it's so much more effective when you do that, when you're, there actually feeling, like touching the fascia, feeling, being present, not just zoning out, looking at your phone.
Right, exactly. That's the whole point of it. And, when you're massaging, I teach people how to palpate their face and feel where the stress is and feel where the tension may be lying, and how to lean into that and really focus on, where is this coming from? Can I take a deep inhale, and can I exhale and let it go? Or even with, facial exercises, when you're relearning how to have healthier facial expressions, you really have to focus on that. It is a mind to muscle exercise where you can't be thinking about anything else. You have to be focused on, how am I presenting myself to the world? How am I presenting myself in my own headspace? It really automatically helps you to zone in to yourself.
Interesting way of putting it, like relearning how to do facial expressions. Because I always think about it with movement, former PT here, of, like you're a lot of times relearning how to do a squat properly or how to do whatever, because you often have just defaulted to what feels natural or what you copied. What would be kind of some examples that you think are really important for people to be aware of?
For example, some of the ideas behind these face yoga poses is to match the expression that you're holding with an emotion that you might have on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, wrinkling the forehead is something that usually happens automatically for a lot of people when they are surprised, when they're happy, when they're excited. And it's a natural reaction when you open up your eyes really wide, really big. For anyone who is watching this, I can open up my eyes really wide and my forehead is triggered to wrinkle. But after practicing, how can I be expressive? How can I show my emotion by tuning into how my muscles are moving at the same time. And you practice these different exercises, and eventually you can be expressive without wrinkling. As I'm showing right now, I can open up my eyes and show you that I'm really in tune with what you're saying. I'm shocked. I'm happy to hear what you're saying, but I'm not allowing my forehead to move. And the face is where we express the emotions that we have inside. So it's not only helping to prevent some of these signs of aging, but it's also a way to connect with the emotion and become aware of the emotion. And that's what that whole face yoga practice is all about.
It is so much deeper, isn't it? Then I'm sure everyone comes to you because they want to avoid the wrinkles or reduce the wrinkles, but then they realize that this is so much deeper than just that. I have also been the kind of person who's like, okay, yeah, face yoga, it's more for aging in a way that you want to age, but it isn't just about that, is it?
No, it's not. It's when you practice mindfulness, it helps to bring you back to your center. It helps you to discover more about yourself. It helps you to become more self-aware. The self-awareness eventually leads to self-acceptance. When you feel good inside, that will immediately start to have external changes in your skin and on your face. You will start to see yourself transform because of how you feel, not just about the world, but about yourself as well. That's your inner radiance shining through. Your eyes are going to be brighter. Your smile's going to be bigger. Your wrinkles, maybe they'll still be there, but they're going to look healthier. The skin is a sensory organ. That's one of its functions, is to feel things. It feels what's going on inside of us as well. So when we have stress, when we are anxious, when we are worried all the time, your skin feels that. And stress also raises our cortisol levels, and cortisol triggers inflammation. Inflammation is the driver of all aging concerns: wrinkles, acne, pigmentation, sagging skin, dullness, dark circles. Inflammation is at the root of all of that. So your skincare practices are an opportunity to tune into your skin, to tune into yourself, to touch your skin, to be with yourself, to spend time on yourself, to check in and really get to know the inner you. And eventually, when that practice becomes part of your normal daily life, you start to see those changes externally as well.
It is so, I'm already converted, but anyone listening to say that a little bit more, it's so much more in the sense too of what you're saying of that reconnection to also create a different reality. And it almost is so interesting too that while we go for the symptoms, like you said, the sagging, the discoloration, the wrinkles, those are just signs of what you were talking about, of the inner health. And the real concern then is like, how do you address the inner health? Because that is going to alleviate or reduce a lot of the external manifestations of that. And again, it always comes back to like, what are you doing for stress? Like, what are people doing for stress?
Well, there are different ways to manage stress. Some people use meditation, some people use regular exercise or yoga or cooking or whatever it is. People manage stress in different ways. Skincare, the practice of skincare, ritualizing your skincare can be also a form of de-stressing. So you're not only physically improving your skin texture and physically improving your form and your facial structure with these different exercises that you can learn, but you're also de-stressing, which is probably one of the biggest parts of the puzzle.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think like so many things can be solved beyond skincare when you're working on the stress. How are you ritualizing it? Because that's such an interesting way to think about it. I don't do this as much anymore, and you're going to cringe a little bit, but I was the person that, slapped on the cream, no ritual at all, no real intention, just, oh, check mark, I put on my hydraulic acid.
It's so easy and so natural for us to be on autopilot and just to go through the motions and go through the routine. But turning it into a ritual is a matter of tuning in, slowing down, watching yourself pour the product or dispense the product into your hand, watching the product as you rub it between your palms, touching your skin and speaking to your skin at the same time that you are listening, tuning in, assessing as you're touching, palpating. Where do I feel the stress? reflecting, what happened today that I'm really proud of? What happened today that I would like to, maybe work on tomorrow? I feel like this kind of goes in line with the name of your podcast. And I was thinking about this, Feel Good Naked. Something that I do sometimes is I stand in front of the mirror with almost no clothing on, a little sports bra, a little shorts or whatever. I want to see my whole body. I want to see myself. I don't want to hide from myself, because sometimes this is about seeing the parts of yourself you don't want to see and forcing yourself to really get real with what's going on, because that's the only way you're going to improve, move forward, progress, and get to this state of feeling peaceful with where you're at. And so ritualizing it, watching yourself go through the steps, turning on some soothing music, taking your time. I have nowhere else to be. I have nowhere else to go for the next half hour. This is my time right now. I'm going to do this for a half an hour or however long it's going to be. You move slowly, because moving slowly is part of it. Faster is not better. More is not better. Less is sometimes more, but the intention behind it, as you move your fingers across your face, as you hold a certain face yoga pose, as you glide your gua sha tool across your skin, there's intention behind it. What am I doing? Am I working with my lymphatic system right now to help to decrease puffiness? Am I working with my fascia because it's feeling really tight and stressed? I want to release some of those fluids. I want to release the stress from the tissue. Am I feeling muscle tension, and that's what's causing my tension headaches? Do I need to roll out my neck because I'm feeling just tight all over? Tuning into what is going on with your whole body. And that's how you start to get into these steps of ritualizing your skincare routine. And then pretty soon it's going to feel kind of strange not to do that. You will start to miss that component of, wait, I didn't really look at myself and check in. I didn't connect with myself today. And it's kind of just one of those things that when you do it enough, when you commit to doing it, I would say, a couple weeks, it's just going to become something that you can't live without.
I'm going to put to everyone 30-day challenge.
Yeah, it's a good
Every
idea.
day. You go to Shelly's Instagram too for your reminder to bring focus to your skincare. Because it also reminds me when you were saying this, how there's so much being present intentionality, and also de-stressing in that moment is so similar to when you slow down any task that you usually don't want to do because you're thinking of the next thing. In this case, you're thinking of bed or sleep, whatever. It's not as horrible, right? Like when you slow down doing the dishes instead of rushing through it, or you slow down making the bed instead of shoving the pillow or the blanket on, you have less resistance and frustration because you are in the moment and the thought is not about what's the next 30 minutes, what's the next hour, what's tomorrow.
Another thing I think that can be helpful, zoom out and imagine that you're watching yourself go through these motions. When you imagine or when you visualize watching yourself like you're an outsider, or, like we see on Instagram, we see people filming themselves waking up or, whatever. Imagine you're actually doing that in real life, that someone has like a camera and they're watching you. How would you behave? How would you act? I like to always say, if your plants could talk, what would they say about you? Because they're always watching.
Some of us are called out right now.
Right? If your plants could talk, what story would they tell about you? And if you have that in the back of your mind, it forces you right away to become very real and intentional with everything you do.
Because yes, like when you do your skincare or your fitness, you don't even connect, do you, most of the time?
Right, right. But like if your plants were going to give a report on how you did that day and the whole week, you would change your behavior. And I think, and like even beyond that, another mindful technique that, and this is something that really helped me through my transformation, was I started to visualize and really meditate upon the person that I wanted to be. Because I had my own skincare struggles. I had my own weight struggles. I had a lot of self-image issues growing up. I think that's also what helped my personality, but, but I had a lot of image issues. And so therefore a lot of self-esteem issues. And so I had to really use a lot of my mind and my heart together. I had to connect those. And I had to start thinking about the person that I wanted to become. I started visualizing what she looked like, what her skin looked like, what she ate, how she spoke, how she listened and tuned into what other people are saying, how she responded. And I started to just act like her. What would she do? When she wakes up in the morning, what would she eat? If she had this stressful event coming at her right now, how would she respond to that? How would she handle that stress? How would she treat her skin? How would she touch her face? And I had that in mind, and it took a while. This is a couple years transformation. And you have good days and you have bad days. But I always had that in my mind. And it got to the point where I woke up one day and I realized that I was her. That was me all along. I was in there. I just had to rediscover. I had to find it. And there's so many distractions in the world and so much to compare yourself with. We always hear, you're not in competition with others. Your only competition is yourself. I don't even like that. I don't even like you're in competition with yourself. I feel very strongly that instead of being in competition with yourself, you become your own best friend. You become your own coach. You help yourself, help your best friend achieve whatever that they're trying to achieve, aligning my actions with my deepest intentions.
It's the only way to sustainably change, isn't it? There's no other shortcut besides that. And this is going to have to come up, is that you have such a different background to get into this kind of holistic health, right? Like, because you didn't start out in this space.
I was always in skincare because of, my own struggles. I wanted to learn about the skin, but I have always had a science mind. Things had to make sense for me. As much as I enjoy the energetics and the woo woo of it all, I really needed the science too. And for stuff to make sense, I wanted the chemical to make the difference and this to produce the results right away and see the change immediately. And so I became a nurse. I wanted to dive in deeper into the skincare world as a nurse. But then through my nursing schooling and being in the environment of healthcare, I kind of became passionate about helping save lives instead of wrinkles. And so I became a full-fledged nurse for a while. But nurses are amazing people. It's a humbling career. It was too stressful for me. Having that responsibility of taking care of so many patients and because of the way the structure is set up, not being able to fully take care of people the way I wanted to was very stressful for me. And I felt like I was slowly killing myself. So I decided, okay, I'll go back into, in aesthetics, but I'll still be a nurse. I'll go into injecting. And so I became a nurse injector. I learned how to do Botox. I learned how to do filler. I was doing it on myself. And it was, kind of this thing that it was magical. Like, oh, I can just place something in your skin and you'll immediately see the wrinkles disappear. You'll immediately see the nasolabial folds disappear. And then I got to the point, the transformation from leaving that space happened with me first before it happened with my clients, is I was noticing that I was becoming dependent on these sort of medications. I mean, literally like a drug. I was becoming dependent on them. And it was something outside of myself that was making the difference. It wasn't me, really. I mean, yes, I was the one injecting, but it was a substance that I had to constantly get my hands on to then use to make the change. And I realized that these were just quick fixes. There was no inner nurturing going on at all. And so I slowly started to learn, using the anatomy knowledge that I had, I started to learn how to move the face, how to touch the face in ways that mimicked what these medications were doing. For example, the forehead, the Botox is relaxing the muscles of the forehead so that you don't wrinkle. Well, I took that knowledge and learned how to apply that using facial massage and face yoga. How can we mimic what Botox is doing? How can we relax the forehead naturally? And I was seeing through practice that I actually liked the way my face looked better when it was natural, when I still had some movement, but I was able to have more control over it. And it was still starting to smooth out and look healthier. And I was feeling better about myself at the same time. And so I slowly started sharing this information with my patients. my clients, because I was also doing facials at the time. So I had a lot of crossover there as well. They also were feeling the same way. They were also feeling, yeah, I know this is a quick fix. And they were still sort of unhappy deep down inside with how they looked. It brought about short-term confidence, but it didn't really do anything in terms of healing what was really going on. And so I slowly started coaching them into how to do these exercises, almost like weaning them off of the fillers and the Botox. And I started sharing this information online, and then it obviously became very popular. And so now I have completely left the injection world. I still think that there's a place for it in some, in some cases for some people. Sometimes it's part of the process of on your journey to healing, and that's fine. It was part of my process, so it has a place. But I have completely left that part of my life now, and I focus now mostly on teaching people how to move, how to touch their face, how to use these techniques and modalities. And I have a whole studio now of classes that teach all of these things for people. They're all like 5 to 20-minute classes. That's all you need. All you need a day. Just a little quick face workout, a time to reconnect with the self, a time to work on yourself, touch your skin, touch your face. And it's been working out really well. I have a lot of people who have since left the injection world as well, getting injections for themselves. And they say, I'm so much happier now.
It's so hard because it's almost like you feel like there's not an alternative. And so this is where it's really helpful to hear from you that there is an alternative to what you're doing right now, because the argument that was always there of, well, just don't do it, is never going to be as effective as, okay, well, this is something else. It's just like I can say to people with fitness and stuff, like, just don't, have whatever XYZ food. But I'm not giving a real alternative for why or how you could manage it differently, or just don't do diets. Well, what do they do instead? And like, if you don't offer that guidance, then people don't know the next steps. So I think it's really transformative that you are offering that knowledge in a doable way. Like you said, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, 5 to 20 minutes is all it takes. I mean, it's just like working out the body.
Yeah.
You take some time to do some yoga, Pilates, weightlifting, cardio, whatever. You start to see your body transform. It's the same thing with the face. It's the same thing with the face. And I think, as I said before, I think it's important to recognize that it's okay to incorporate some of those things that we say don't, the no list. It's okay to incorporate that if that is part of your journey. If that is something you have to get out of your system, if it is going to be a piece of the puzzle towards your self-discovery or whatever. And as I mentioned, it was for me. If I hadn't done that stuff, I, first of all, wouldn't know a lot about the anatomy and how these exercises actually do mimic what these things are doing. But I would have always been wondering too. I would have always wondered, would I feel better about myself if I just did the quick fix? And for some people, it's absolutely not. I don't need it. That's great. They're already there. I wasn't there yet. I think a lot of people aren't there yet. And so I just want to say that it's okay to explore these other things if your aim and your intention is to get to the place where you can do it on your own.
Balanced view. Nobody's going to feel singled out here for whatever you're doing or not doing. Can we do one exercise together just to give people a sense of, and some people will be watching, but most people will be listening,
Yeah.
to get a sense of how it would work? Because I think people see it sometimes, but they don't really grasp why. So also, if I can ask you afterwards, what were we doing? Like, what was it activating? What was it targeting? Why did it work?
Well, I can explain that now.
Yeah.
If we're talking specifically about facial exercises, face yoga, there are stretching poses, just like there is in regular yoga, and there are lifting or holding, strengthening poses that is meant to lift, especially exercise the muscles that don't get enough exercise throughout the day. So we have some muscles that overwork themselves, like the ones between the brows. So we want to do stretching poses, relaxation poses there. And then for the cheeks, that's an area where we don't get enough lift, enough exercise. And that's where we start to see the sagging. So we really want to work on plumping this area up, volumizing this area. This is where it mimics things like fillers. Okay. Because we start to see those nasolabial fold lines or the marionette lines. That's because of fallen tissue in the mid-face and cheekbone area to scaffold under the skin. And that's by using our musculature and building that up. One of the poses that you can do, and there's so many, if you place the tip of your tongue to your upper lip, and you can either from here, from this position, just smile with your teeth. Yep, holding your tongue to your upper lip and smile. So hold your tongue up here and smile. Perfect. Yep. So right away, you are engaging the tongue. That when you engage the tongue, immediately you are exercising the muscles of the cheek. When you exercise the muscles of the cheek, they are going to volumize, they're going to tone, they're going to lift, they're going to become stronger. That's going to indirectly lift or soften the nasolabial fold lines. More, volume up here in the mid-face area, and holding like this. You can line block with your fingers just so you're not making any creases while you're doing it. And at the same time, so now this is the other component. As you're holding this, I have my elbows out, my shoulders are down. Elbows are completely out. My chest is open as I'm holding this pose. And then you take a deep breath into your belly. So right away, you are fully focused on this pose. You are not thinking about anything else because you are trying really hard to get this pose down. And at the same time, you are exercising, you're strengthening the muscles in your cheeks. So you see already just in that 5 seconds that we just did that pose, how powerful this can be if you commit to a 15-20 minute practice where you are working on these poses and at the same time focusing on your breath, your shoulders, your body, how you're holding your posture. Another pose that's more of a stretching pose is the big O. You want to make a low O with your lips and fully stretch the whole front side of your face. You're doing it perfectly. Now, when you hold this for 30 seconds to a minute, you're going to start to feel the stretch around the nasolabial folds. You're going to feel the stretch in the cheeks. Eventually, you're also going to start to feel the stretch underneath the eyes. And this is so good for puffiness and dark circles under the eyes because we need that muscle stretching to activate lymph flow, to activate more blood circulation, more detoxification to happen. And so this is one of the exercises I do throughout the day that really helps to work on puffiness under the eyes as you just hold that low O. It stretches everything out. You can even combine that with a little bit of facial massage or lymph drainage to carry out even more waste, just like this. And it looks funny, it looks silly, but when you do these all the time, you truly start to see, oh, wow, that really worked. It really made a difference.
I can already feel it. Honestly, when you do it, you can feel it's so funny because you think it's just going to be the targeted area, but you actually feel it across the face and even in the posture. It feels like a whole waist up exercise when you're doing some of this.
It is. And that's another, I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people always say, well, I just want to work on my nasolabial folds or I just want to work on my crow's feet. It is so important to recognize that all of the facial muscles first of all, they're all connected within the face and they're also connected within the body. Everything is connected. Your body, your face moves as a unit. So working on all areas, all muscles, all areas of the fascia, body parts will improve your specific area of concern. You cannot just compartmentalize and just say, I only want to do an exercise for this, because you're just not going to see sustainable results that way. You have to work on the surrounding tissues in order to get sustainable results.
There's no spot training. I want everyone to hear that. We cannot spot train in the body or the face. It is all interconnected. And I definitely felt that too, especially in the first exercise, that it wasn't just around the mouth, but I could feel it around the sides of the nose. I could feel it just beneath the eyes. It was definitely, and it was difficult. Like you had so much more mobility with your tongue than I did. I was really struggling to get it up there.
It takes practice. And that's another really great thing about face yoga is that it's something that you can continue to get better and better at.
I like that feeling of what's the word? It's not competence. It's kind of like self-autonomy, right? You're finding a way to achieve your healthy habits with what you learn, and being obviously like it's helpful to work with someone like you to know what these are versus trying to cobble it all together. But it's also you have that knowledge forever. Where can people connect with you to know more? And also, how can they work with you? Because we did such a little bit here, barely anything touched the
Yeah.
surface.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Beauty Shamans. And then on my website, beautyshamans.com, I have all of my skincare collections and tools. I offer one-on-one private sessions, very limited time right now, just because I have a 10-month-old at home. So that's kind of taking a lot of my time. And then the Skin Within Studio, that's where I would say is a really good place to start, because I have over 200 5 to 20-minute videos, classes that combine things like gua sha, face yoga, face massage, reflexology. We incorporate deep breathing. We incorporate intention. You press play, you follow along with me. We do it together. You're done within 20 minutes for the day. And that's a membership. You use it until you can fly free on your own.
I love that resource. And I'm definitely going to recommend that too for anyone that's very curious and they feel like I need a little guidance. I need a little accountability. Thank you for being so generous with what you shared and helping us understand a bit more about skincare and connecting.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.